Well, welcome to the Expats Portugal webinar for the 29th of May 2025. Good to see you. We're talking about renting in Portugal, what you must know before you sign. And here to help us, we have Filipa and Hivana from EI. Tonight, we will look at navigating competitive markets and limited rental options, understanding legal, visa and contract requirements, spotting red flags in listings, agents and agreements, rent guarantees, fiadores, so there will be some language to understand as well, and we've got logistical and legal support this evening from Hivana and Filipa, and the large upfront payments, the deposits, avoiding overpriced rentals and pressure to sign too fast, another red flag there, misunderstandings and language gaps with landlords and agents, and renting with pets, which I'm sure will be of interest to many of our members, and knowing, well, not also, but not exclusively. If there are any other questions you've got, put them in the chat. But last point here that we will talk about, knowing your rights during rental and contract termination. So let's give them a welcome to the screen for our webinar tonight. Good evening to you, Hivana. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, thanks. And I'm very glad to be here again.
And in cooler Porto, I think, this evening.
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay, I noticed, yeah, Porto and the Silver Coast are a little
23 degrees.
A mere 20, a very comfortable 23. Thank you for being here this evening. Filipa as well. Good evening to you, Filipa. Tudo bem?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me again from Lisbon, and it was 31 degrees today. Very hot day.
Wow, and the jacaranda trees in bloom, I suspect as well. How lovely. Fantastic in the capital there. Right, let's get underway. I know both of you have presentations, and we have people saying hi to us in the chat as well. Jeannie's here, LaRonda, S, Nikita from Pennsylvania, and oh, excellent, some towns, difference in pricing between Caldas da Rainha, São Martinho de Porto, etc., etc. Great, some good questions and pointers coming in already. Over to you, Hivana, I think first, because you're presenting for us in the first instance.
Well, I'm here tonight representing Casa Portuguesa. Casa Portuguesa is a real estate agency, but with no properties to rent or sell, because our main objective is to look for a property as if it were for ourselves, okay? So we will always look for what is best for our client. So we will like deal with the properties, agencies, and etc. as if it was for a house for me or for Anna or for Carla, okay? And we here as Casa Portuguesa, we can help you. As if you want to buy a house, we can work as buyer agents. But when you look for a place to rent, we will do a study and intensive research, always, all the time, looking for something that you feel good to live, okay? We will do like visits on your behalf, and our legal department will do the review of the rental agreement too, okay? Well, if you decide to move to Portugal before renting, you have to make a couple of choices. Like you have to decide, what do you want? Where would you like to live? In a city, in a small town, close to sea, etc. Then you decide, because like Porto is not so hot as the south, as Lisbon. So according to what you feel and what you desire to have for a home, you make your choice, a house, an apartment, and you have to decide too in your budget. So we will look for a place for you within this budget, okay? I was going to talk about advanced rent and safe deposits, but I'm going to leave it for Filipa. But I would just say that you have to pay advanced rents and safe deposits, and Filipa will explain more. So, but if you decide to live in the north of Portugal, then I'd be delighted to look for a place for you and find a home for you, because Ana Mota and I, we are responsible for the north part of Portugal, okay? So after you decide where you want to live, okay, you have to put on some questions, okay? Usually we have like a questionnaire for you asking these questions. So will you have a car? Will you be using public transportations? How many rooms do you need? Bathrooms, if you want furnished or not. And if you need a balcony, a garden, okay? If you are going to have a car, then you will need some place to park. Maybe you have a place with a garage, or maybe in the street there will be enough places to park. So it will be your decision. Your energy rating. And if you have a pet, then it's more difficult to have a house with a furnished place, okay? But it's not impossible. We can get it, okay? And well, I was just remember something. I forgot. Okay. I will remember later and I will tell you, okay? So after you decide those things, we can begin. We start our search for you. And we are going to send you the options, the links, and we have several agencies and like partners, people we know, and we will ask around for places within your choices, okay? And these apartments or houses, it will be more like they already know that we have clients that are good people and etc. So it's very good. Well, after you decide for a place and you have your contract and you have it rented, now it's time to have the house utilities, okay? But before you have the house utilities, because sometimes you rent a place now, but the contract will begin only next month, for example. So we have to wait for the contract to start, the date to start to apply for the utilities, okay? So we're going to apply for water, electricity, and gas, if it's the case, and the internet services, okay? Usually the water, there's only one water company in the place you choose to live, and then we will deal with that. Sometimes the place does not have a counter, so we have to ask to install one. And in this case, it would take a little bit more, maybe 1 week, maximum maybe 10 days to install the counter. But if the water is on in the place, so it's easier and faster, okay? And the electricity, the same. If it's a new place, then it takes a little bit more time because of the counters that they have to install, okay? And about the gas, every time you move to a place with gas, if they have for the water and to cook and everything, the gas company, they make inspection every time. So if you change ownership, they have to do an inspection, and this has a cost, okay? Sometimes it's from 20 to 40 euros, depending on the place and depending on the company, okay? After that, you have to decide about your internet. We take care of it for you too, as everything else. Usually we send to you the options from more than one company for you to decide if you want to have like the eSIMs or SIM cards and everything. We can take care of it. And when you arrive in Portugal, your house will be ready for you with water, electricity, gas, and internet services. And if you have a phone that takes an eSIM, when you arrive in the airport, you can use it, the internet and everything, as soon as you arrive in Portugal, okay? And well, about the payments of these services, if you already have a Portuguese bank account, you can choose the direct debit. It will be easier. You give them your IBAN, and then every month they will charge your bill in your bank account, okay? If you don't, you just have to pay in the like with the reference and the codes that you have in the bill, okay? Well, what more about that? Well, after that, if you have questions, then I will answer that, okay? As I say before, the utilities, how to connect, you have to have everything in order to ask for the connections. The costs, I have already said the cost for the gas inspection. Usually the water company, they charge you if they have to, when they have to put the counter. And if they don't, sometimes it's a small, the fee is not the same, but it depends on the city again, okay? And the payments is, it's the same. Well, so Casa Portuguesa, besides the renting services or buying, if you need to buy a house or an apartment, we can offer you like transfers from the airport, a guided tour of the main points of interest. So if you plan to live in, for example, Viana do Castelo, so, and you want to visit beforehand, so you come to Portugal and we have a guided tour to the place so you can see the places and the areas where you would like to live, okay? Well, that's it. I think I was very
Excellent. That's
short.
perfect. No, that's great. Not a problem at all, because this will prompt a lot of questions and jog people's memories and help them think of things they haven't thought of yet as well. Did you remember the thing that you forgot? Did that come back to you, or will you remember it at 2 a.m?
Yeah, yes.
It will come back.
For
Okay,
sure.
right.
At
You
2
know where
in
we
the
are.
morning, I will remember.
You can
I will
email.
wake up and remember the question.
Well, you know
That's
our email
okay.
address. Just send it to us.
Maybe someone is going to ask exactly what I was going
I
to
think so.
say.
So yeah,
Yeah.
okay, brilliant. And we've got a lot of prompts and questions already, which is great, and points. So thank you for those. But we'll come back to those after we've heard. I'll just stop your share on the screen.
Yes.
Of course, we'll come back to your contact details so that people can get in touch. Thank you very much, Hivana, for your presentation there, and thanks for all the pointers that are coming in for the question session, which we'll have. We will record a couple of questions for the purposes of YouTube, but you'll also have a chance to talk more privately with Filipa and Hivana after we've stopped the YouTube recording. So Filipa, I should say, I'm saying it with the English pronunciation there. Filipa,
Hello.
I heard Hivana saying more accurately. Good evening to you, Filipa, and please, over to you.
So thank you again, and let me just present myself. I'm a lawyer. I work with A and also Casa Portuguesa, and I will be here just giving you some pointers about lease and some red flags also regarding the formality of having a lease in Portugal. So beginning with this, let me put the first slide for this overview of legal framework. So this is one of the important information that you need to be aware of, because leases in Portugal are at least 1 year of duration. So it's often that we see people arriving to their VFS appointments with a lease with 6 months plus another 6 months. But be aware, because in Portugal, a lease for permanent residency must be at least for a year. So our law demands between 1 and the maximum of 30 years. But the usual practices is between 1 and 5 years. So if you have a lease that it's mentioning that it's for 6 months, that can be an issue if the VFS questions you for if it's for permanent residency. So it's really important that you have this in line. And of course, the contract can be renewable or non-renewable according with the will of the parties. So if the parties agree that it's non-renewable, it can be for a year, or it can be renewable for another year, or if no one says anything, it will be for another 3. But I will get to that further. So at least for the duration, this is really important that you are aware of it. Then the main documents for the lease. So Hivana, when she is searching for a house, Hivana and her team, she will be aware if the house has energy certificate, if the register is valid, and if the owner is the one who is claiming that it's the owner. But on your side, and this we will verify on our side, but on your side, as a tenant, you need to present a valid passport or citizen card if outside the EU, and a tax identification number. That is what we call our NIF. And this will be a very common name that you will use during your migration process. Everyone needs to do the NIF. And of course, a rental agreement must be done in writing. It cannot be verbal. So you need to have a document signed by both parties saying that they are agreeing on a lease. So this is important that you realize that the house must be public, the public register must be updated, and the energy certificate that is mandatory must be delivered so that we can have a look at it and validate all the documentation. So these are the main required documents. The NIF is important because once the lease is done, the landlord must register the lease on the tax office platform. And he will be issuing rental receipts every month. And this is really mandatory as well. We're using your NIF. So one of the documents that you will need to bring for your permit, for your request for a residency permit, or when you are in Portugal, is the rental receipt. So to show that the landlord is paying his taxes on this income. So for a termination period, this is one of the aspects of the leases that we need to clear everyone, because it's really important to realize the following. If you sign a contract that is for example, for 3 years, but eventually you go to the house and you decide that this does not suit you, you don't like the environment, or it's not big enough, remember that in Portugal, you can always, as a tenant, end the contract, giving a prior notice of 120 days. However, you have to maintain the contract for a third of the duration of the lease. And this is really important, but because if you don't comply, you need to pay the rents during all this time, for 1/3 of the duration of the lease. And sometimes people begin a lease for 3 years, they don't realize that they need to be in the house for at least a year and giving a previous notice to leave of 120 days. So make sure that you like the house, or choose to have a lease for example, for a year. And then you just need to comply with a third of a year. It's a bit shorter, but it will give you some space to decide if that is really the place that you want to live. Of course, Hivana and her team will do the search and will look for a house that complies with your demandings, but sometimes it happens that people just don't feel comfortable in somewhere and they want to move. But it's important that everyone is aware of this duration of the lease that has to be at least a third. Okay, so the landlord can also terminate the lease, but it's different because in Portugal, we have a protection of housing. So it's a kind of a protection for families. Once he delivers the house for a lease for someone, he cannot end that contract before 3 years unless he needs the house for himself. So be aware of these situations. If someone says that you need to leave immediately or in 6 months, please consult an attorney because they will guide you on this, or consult with us and we will also help you. So another thing that is really important for everyone to realize is the advance rents that are requested. So Portugal is very popular at the moment. A lot of these our main cities are very popular and the demand is very high. So sometimes the landlords demand in advance 6 months of rent, and we have seen a year of rent. So be aware that the Portuguese law only allows an advance rent up to 2 months. So of course, this will put you in a situation that you love that house, you want that house, but the landlord is asking 6 months of rent, even though it's not legal, and they have to comply. Unfortunately, it's a market decision, but we always recommend comply with the law and letting the landlord know that he can only request an advance rent up to 2 months, okay? Of course, this can be negotiated for a month, but beyond 2 months, it's not protected by law. And it's important that you are aware. So the rent increase, it's a bit different from other countries because what we use in Portugal is the increase based on the government inflation index. So it has to be given, the landlord must inform the tenant 30 days with a 30 days notice, eventually in written, because we can use the email or by letter, but these days everyone is using email, of course, and can be updated once per year. And remember that the increase, what happens is we have seen also people signing a lease for a year, then the landlord ends and then starts a new lease with another 200 euros up. So unfortunately, things like that happens, but consult with a lawyer, consult with us, and we can help you with this as well, because this is not legal. The security deposit, it's also something that Hivana was mentioning, and it covers damage. What happens is, also in Portugal, the law it has a maximum of a value for the security deposit that is equal to 2 months of rent. This will be returned at the end of the lease. We always recommend everyone, before entering a house, to have some record of the conditions of the house, of the conditions of the appliances, of the furniture, and please communicate that to the landlord by email with the photos. This way, you'll have a register of the status of the house when you enter the house, which you found it. So if you have these photographs and you can say, well, we found that some appliances are not working, it's important that you register this. Once you return the house to the owner, you have a previous register of the conditions that you found when you enter the house. So this deposit will be used by the landlord to replace some appliances, to repair a chair or a table. But if you, before entering, record everything, then you will be secure once you deliver the house back to the owner. Okay, So I'm sure you'll have some questions about these things, but I will be able to reply everyone at the end of the presentation.
That's
So
great.
the renewal, it's also important that you realize that in Portugal, a contract can be renewed, or if we have been seeing also very often contracts that say clearly non-renewable. So you know at the end of the contract, you have to celebrate another contract or find another house. Remember, once you apply for your residency card in Portugal, you'll have the address on the card according to the contract that you will be delivering in IMA services and now our migration services. If you change your house, if you change your address, you also need to change your card. Just another question, but because it's important, that people don't know sometimes that once you move from a house to another, you have to update your residency card. So take that also into consideration. If you choose a house for a year, that you need to keep it, or if you change, update your card. So if the contract is renewable, if you don't want to stay in that house, the tenant can end before that period, for instance, before the year. But if you choose to stay, you can let the landlord know 90 days before that you want to leave the house. So you know, at the end of the year, you have to leave everything as you found it and deliver the keys back to the owner. The landlord has to comply with 120 days. However, he needs to leave the protection of the family that we have in Portugal. The contract will be valid for at least 3 years. But of course, parties may renegotiate the terms of the contract, because some things we can negotiate, like costs with the repairments, costs with utilities. Those things you can negotiate in the contract. So termination and eviction. Well, we never see this because everyone is very complying. Everyone is everyone is excellent and the payment. So we never gone through an eviction situation. But of course, I just want to let you know that if you don't pay, of course, you can have an eviction and has to be justified. If you don't pay at least for 3 months, then the landlord can have a justification to go to the court and have an eviction. One thing a lot of people ask me is about termination with by other reasons. For instance, if you go into a house and some things don't work and you have water falling off the ceiling, or if the bathroom does not work. So the law in Portugal allows you to end by legal reasons a contract, but you have to justify. In that situation, we always recommend use someone to represent you. Of course, a lawyer. You can use our services as well, because we have to let the landlord know that you have legal grounds to give up that lease. And it's important that everything is well justified, because eventually if the landlord goes to court, you will have everything done previously. Okay. So as a summary of our situation in Portugal regarding legal laws for the leases, we have leases are regulated and protect both parties. Remember, we have a family and house protection in our lease law. Be aware of deadlines and legal requirements. Remember, we need to comply. Once it's signed, you have to comply. Before signing, consult someone to verify if the lease is according to the law, if the house complies with the requirements for the lease, and then everything will be okay. Written contracts are essential. You cannot have a contract that is not in written, and it's only valid once it's signed for both parties. And visit the apartment if possible, or have one of our members of the house hunting team visit before signing and check if everything is according to the contract. Thank you so much, and I will be here waiting for your questions.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed there, Filipa. Great. And Hivana as well. And we'll go to some questions. Don't forget, we've got the Premium Lounge as well at 9 in just under an hour's time, where we'll have a leisurely get together. Maybe bring a glass of wine and we'll talk about issues that are affecting you. It's user-generated content, if you like. It's led by you, our members, and what you want to talk about and how we can be helpful in that regard. So let's go back to the beginning of the questions. And I do have a couple from people who can't be here, which I shall return to as well. Don't forget, premium members, you can do that. And that's a good reason, if you're watching this on YouTube, to become an Expats Portugal premium member at expatsportugal.com. Jeannie, thank you for that. And you loved a little bit of Amalia at the beginning. We'll come back to some specifics, I think, about areas in our more private conversation. But let's go with some of the generalities. And pets is a very interesting subject. I want to start there, if I may. Filipa, I understood some time ago that landlords aren't allowed to, what would the word be, prejudice against pet owners. Is that still correct in Portuguese law, that you can't say no pets, or can that be stipulated?
Carl, that can be stipulated, including there are some condos that have in their rules that they don't allow pets.
Okay.
So be aware if the contract says that you cannot have pets in the house.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And let me just share with this testimonial, unsolicited testimonial. Loved working with Hivana and Anna to find a great apartment in Porto from Jim here. The apartment is all I needed and more. A special thanks to Carla for her diligent efforts to find an apartment for me in Tomar, and for having the insight to say that the apartment rental market was too tight in Tomar to find something in my time frame. The apartment, that's nice, isn't it? Some good straightforward honesty there about the situation. The apartment in Porto was meant to be, and I couldn't be more pleased. How about that as a single sentence testimonial? Couldn't be more pleased. That's Jim there. Hivana, going back to gas, I just wanted to clarify something about, you said there needed to be an inspection. That's for mains gas, isn't it? Not for bottled gas, presumably.
No, this is the gas that comes from the
Street gas, I guess you call it.
Yes, like comes from the apartment has all the pipes and everything. So
okay, and that every
Okay.
turnover of tenant, that has to be reserviced by the gas authority.
yes.
Right. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Well, old houses, sometimes they have like the gas bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
But these are not. They don't have the inspection.
No. Okay, and you would get that done yourself, wouldn't you, with a local plumber or
Yeah.
a engineer?
Mhm.
Okay. George was asking, are there plans to phase out gas like there are in the Netherlands? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I can't see it happening in Portugal.
Well, I did understand the question. Like I read the question and
Yeah.
I don't know what he means by phase, like gas phase.
Getting rid of gas domestically, I think, is the suggestion there. But I've never heard anything like that here in Portugal, George. I think
Yeah.
maybe more, I don't know, societies with other agendas and needs might be considering such a move. George also on a concern for people about mould and humidity, which can come as quite a shock for people coming into Portugal with those different weather conditions and that in the environment. How do you go about dealing with that? There aren't any ratings with that, are there, Hivana, about
No,
mold?
there's no ratings. And usually you could find this on old places,
Yes.
older places. But usually if they have like air conditioner or if the place is renewable, so you won't have that kind of problem. Usually we look for it. So if you go to an apartment, Anna and I, if we visit a place and see there's mold, we would tell you. So
Yeah, that's right. And then your very detailed inspections are going to
Yeah.
show that, and people will be warned about that because you are their eyes and ears.
Mhm.
Good question from Jeannie. In general, what are the interior walls of apartments made of? Which I think connects to the lease as well, about people wanting to put up pictures or not. From a DIY point of view, drilling into a Portuguese hollow wall and with a raw plug is not the easiest thing to do, or to knock a picture hook in. How do you stand, generally speaking, Filipa, with contracts and whether you're allowed to hang pictures or not? Does that come up very much?
So sometimes it happens that we have requirements from the landlord, so don't use the walls. But it's important that the people that are renting realize that once you receive the house, you have to deliver in the same conditions that you received it.
Yes.
So if you have a lot of pictures in the wall, but if the wall is from special material, you have to replace it and deliver in the same conditions that you have found it. So it's really important that you are also aware of the income, of the expenses that this can have. You can have if you need to decorate the walls like you want to, but sometimes that can be included in the leases.
Yeah, and that's your deposit. Goodbye to your deposit, basically, isn't it? Jerry, I think you've got a question on. Thanks, Filipa, for that.
I just wanted to add to that there are plenty of invisible nails now on the market and plenty of ways of doing it. You don't need to drill holes and put plugs in anymore. Carl, that's a very old-fashioned way to do it.
Right. I need to update my DIY skills, don't I?
You do.
Maybe there'll be a webinar, a picture hanging webinar.
I've just saved you about 2 days of making a hole and then it's too big and you've got to fill it and all that stuff. You don't do that anymore. You just buy little sticky stuff.
Maybe my deposit as well. Very good. No, I don't know if anyone else is having a Zoom issue. My scrolling and finding questions in the chat has become suddenly difficult. Diana, I can see this one though, Diana. So forgive me if I'm having a little bit of a difficult relationship with the chat at the moment. And we'll go to more private questions in just a moment when I conclude the recording. But this one's interesting. A question for Filipa. I've heard it can be difficult for people over 65 to secure rentals, even if the law would discourage discrimination based on age, because the law also makes it very difficult to evict tenants who are senior citizens. Is this the case? And if so, what can seniors do to alleviate such concerns? It's a good question.
So we are talking about old leases and a different kind of lease, not a fixed term lease. So we have a lot of clients that are having leases with no issues. So this is not a concern for us. Hivana and her team finds often places to lease for people that are over 65, and we never had issues about it.
Okay, very good. That's I'm sure.
I just found a place for a 75-year-old.
Okay, there you go. So no worries there. Well done. Good work on that, Hivana. Thank you very much. Tara, the 2 months rent means that if you move in June, your next rental payment is in August. That's not how it works. It's at the other end of the agreement, isn't it, Filipa?
Okay, let me see. If you enter in a house in June, you will pay June and July. And in July, you will pay August and so on and so on. That is, you will be always paying upfront.
Yes.
But there are a lot of versions. We see a lot of versions in the leases. People that pay 6 months and the next month are paying 8 months ahead. So pay attention that you are only obligated to pay 2 months in advance.
Very good. There you go. That sorts things out for Tara there. I think I'm going to conclude the recording, but I'll just come back to you both for a last word. Great presentations, both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Filipa, is there anything else you want to add before I stop the recording for YouTube here?
So it's really important that before signing, and Carl, this is one of the things I really ask everyone, before signing, check the contract, if it's according to the law, if everything is valid, if the owner is the one is presenting the contract, because we need to check the documents of the house, if the house has all the documentation needed for the lease. And once you have that verified, you'll be comfortable and you'll be having legal lease. Thank you.
Legal ease. Very good. Thank you
Please.
for that. Thank you very much indeed. Jerry, before we come back to Hivana. Jerry, go.
Yes, sorry, I just checked about this phasing out of gas, and there are plans to phase it out. Portugal has plans to phase out the use of all fossil fuels, but there's no timeline yet. Nothing has been decided, but it's scheduled for them to achieve by 2030. I don't think it's going to happen, and there's no stated timeline at this stage, but it is on the cards to happen.
I just had a terrible thought. What happens to barbecues? That this is just a shocking thought in Portugal, isn't it? The threat to the barbecue and the sardines. It's not going to happen
That's
here.
it. That's it. I'm closing Expats Portugal. We're done.
That's a bombshell. Hivana, a last word from you, if we may.
Well, I think I was very short in my explanations, because every contract and every place you choose, they have their special things that we need to discuss. Okay, so and the market is very demanding. So when we are going to find a place and choose some place to live, we will always have to deal with sometimes differences in the contracts and few details, but we sorted out everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the testimonials suggest that people love working with you. Find Casa Portuguesa and AEI, of course, in the business directory of expatsportugal.com, and you'll qualify for discounts as well as a premium member. So thank you very much to our YouTube audience. Come join us, become a premium member, and you can join us live. Let's go to the rest of the questions now.